Hey everyone, Andrew here, and today I'm going to be doing my first manga review for the channel. I decided to do this because I do have a very big interest in Japanese manga. It's one of those fun Japanese art form that you can read the entire series of in fairly short time frame. Usually it consists of chapters. Chapters are usually like 30 pages, and I can usually read an entire book of that in maybe an hour. And they tend to be interesting and bizarre series, but also get some good dramas and comedies and stuff out of them. To do this, and I was like, well, which one should I talk about first? And I think I found an interesting one to start with. So today I'm going to be reviewing the manga series Assassination Classroom. Okay, so Assassination Classroom is a series by Yusei Matsui, and is a quite interesting take. This one was suggested to me by my friends Mamduda and Liana, in that I said I was sort of interested in it, and they told me don't read it, it's horrible. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I kind of have to read it now. To be fair, I expressed an interest in it because I came across this series from a video game called J-Star's Battle Victory, which was a collection of Jump Comics characters. So you had like Dragon Ball and Naruto and Bleach, and they had the main villain from this villain, and one of the leads from this, and I was like, that looks bizarre and interesting. I want to check it out. And my friends are like, don't, it's bad. I'm like, I'm still gonna check it out. It also appealed to me because it's a short series. It's only 21 books, which sounds like a lot, but when you read mangas, you find out that you can read a full book of a manga in under an hour. So reading 21 books is less than a day worth of reading. And I read this in the course over a week. Honestly, having read it now, I don't know necessarily what they disliked about it. It's a bizarre series, I will give you that, but a lot of anime series are way more bizarre than this. This has nothing on Fooly Cooly or Excel Saga or Magical Shopping Arcade of Benabashi. All are insane ones. This one has just got a very, very bizarre premise. The very start of the series, the moon has just exploded. It blew up, and all that's left is a crescent of what the moon was. And we introduced to our main character, who is Nagisa Shitoa, who is basically a very, very short, blue-haired boy who wears his hair up in pigtails, basically because he has very long hair. Everyone treats him like he's a girl. So he is a member of the Kunugakure High School Class E, or the N class. Basically, it's the troublemakers class. It's the people who couldn't maintain their grades and stay out of trouble in the normal main house, so they've been sent to Class E, which is in the deep in the hills behind the main building. And they have just gotten a new sensei, and the new sensei walks into the class, and it's a bright yellow octopus monster. This creature with long tentacles, dressed as a sensei would be, tells them that he is the creature that has destroyed the moon, and that he will destroy the Earth in 1 year's time unless someone in the classroom is able to assassinate him. The kids are like, what the hell? And so an agent of the Japanese military of defense comes in, and his name is Tadoemi Karasuma, and tells them, yes, we have made a deal with him that he will leave the Earth alone and not cause any damage to you or the Earth itself for 1 year's time. In exchange, he gets to be a teacher and fulfill his desire for it, even though we don't know why he wants it. And while we're doing that, we're going to train you all to be assassins. If you manage to succeed in killing him, you will receive 10 billion yen. But we will provide you weapons and training and everything to make this possible. Yeah, that's the series we're kind of dealing with, is a bunch of kids carrying around guns. Granted, they're all filled with rubber bullets, but
that only hurt Koro-sensei can't actually hurt each other with. And they literally will pull them out every second
to try and use them on Koro-sensei. It's bizarre. I will definitely give you that. Is it the weirdest thing I've ever read in manga? No. And I can understand, like, this I see as the thing that kept my friends from saying this was good, or they didn't like this, because it's insane. It's a really crazy plot. Like I said, I've read weirder. A good example is Excel Saga. The first chapter of Excel Saga is our main character trying to kill the author of Excel Saga. And they flat out acknowledge that he's writing that series. So it's like it's the character trying to kill its own author as the first chapter. This one has a bizarre concept, but once you actually get into it, it's really not it's not too crazy. It's bizarre and has some interesting choices. But we find out that the sensei is very powerful and very dangerous. Granted, not just from the movie, but it's like they figure out that he's going to be a really difficult thing to kill because he can move at Mach 20 for starters, and has all of these special abilities and special things that he can do. So they come to the conclusion that he's actually probably unkillable. So they're like, okay, we need to give you a name because he does not have a name. So they affectionately refer to him as Koro Sensei, which is a combination of the words for unkillable and teacher. So, yeah. And one of the
it's kind of interesting. He'll change color depending on his mood or if however he wants. Because
they'll ask a question, or he'll ask a question and they'll answer, and he'll go. His face will turn into a bright red, have a bright red circle on it for correct, or a bright red X for not. When he's telling them that, like, oh yeah, you could try to kill me, he'll turn green and white stripes, which is basically him being like super confident that you'll never succeed. And one of the first plans that they try to do is they get our main character to
wear a grenade and go ask Sensei a question and basically sacrifice himself to kill Sensei.
Koro Sensei stops that, basically. He sees the grenade and manages to put his tentacles in front of the kid, protecting the kid, and then he just stares at the rest of the class.
It turns pitch black and is just enraged.
And he's like, you will never do anything like that again. If you put yourselves in danger, I will blow up the planet now. This is not how this is going to work. As the school goes on, you get to different chapters and different things. It's like you get a lot of people from outside of the classroom trying to assassinate Koro Sensei because the money is for anyone who's willing to succeed in a bunch of different techniques. And to help protect the students and train them,
Tadome Karasuma, who is the guy who, from the Ministry of Defense, becomes their PE teacher. He teaches them how to be better assassins, teaches them how to fight, how to shoot, how to strategize, how to come up with different plans.
And we meet one of the first assassins that we meet from outside that try their hands at this is a woman named Irina Jelkovic,
who is a honey trap assassin. Basically, she's a very hot blonde woman who will show up and seduce men into doing whatever she wants, and then will kill them when they lower their guard for a moment.
And she tries to use this method to kill Koro Sensei, and gets found out pretty quickly. It's one of those things, like, she's an assassin, but once she's known to be an assassin, she loses any skill or talent she really has, because all of her talent is in the seduction. But she is a master of languages. She ends up becoming the classroom's English teacher. Bunch of phrases in English, because it's easiest to learn seduction phrases and different things when you hold interest. So it's really, she actually does some interesting work and help with it. But the kids all end up referring to her affectionately as Bitch Sensei. Yeah. And yeah, she doesn't like it. But it's kind of interesting, and it's an interesting dynamic between the three, because you have Koro Sensei, who is crazy and just will say and do anything, but is very lighthearted. You have Totome, who's the strong, silent hero kind of character, and you have Irina, who's the loudmouth, bright, abrasive female character. And But yeah, the fact that they call her that, I don't understand exactly why, but it's interesting. It's weird because she's only like a few years older than them. She's like in her very, very early 20s or late teens. There's a point in the series where it's like the one of the teachers is like, she betrayed us, we can't trust her, this and that and the other, and the students are like, you realize she's only like 5 years older than us, right? She's more immature than most of us are. She made a mistake. Treat her the same way you would treat us if we made a mistake, type of thing. Which is really the thing about this series that is kind of interesting to me, is that it's a series that has a bizarre premise, but you could easily rework this series into just being a show about bad students get amazing teacher. Because that's a good chunk of the series, is just this teacher who encourages them and teaches them how to think and how to do things and how to better be prepared for their lives. Even all of the assassination training, all the stuff they get from that is teaching them how to solve problems, how to get through physical hurdles, how to work with people around you. And that's like super interesting. And I love the way that they express some of this in different things, because there's a good chunk of the series that's just them doing like exams for the school. And it's not just like a kid sitting in the classroom. I mean, it is, but in their brains, they're treating it like they're fighting an opponent. So you see the problems as these monsters that the kids have to strategize around and figure out how to destroy. And it's really good combination of the concepts of classroom and assassination. It really works well. You get introduced to a bunch of characters through this, and unfortunately, a good chunk of them kind of just fade into the background. I think there's like maybe 4 of the students that really stand out that I could mention. Like, you got our main character, you have Karima Akiban, who is
the bad boy of the school, who isn't in the first couple chapters. He shows up like the second chapter or third chapter in, and he comes back to school and is told that, oh yeah, we're trying to assassinate this alien who's going to destroy the world. And he's like, I would love to kill a teacher. That sounds great. And literally comes back with the sole desire to just murder a teacher.
And he is like the main driving force behind the assassination, even when things kind of peter a little bit in different parts. He's always the first to kind of go for it. But he turns out to also be kind of a genius. Like, he ends up being super smart and figuring things out. So he's a bizarre, complicated character that I do actually quite enjoy. But for the most part, like, the rest of the students all kind of fade in the background. It's like you have the one guy who's into baseball, you have the 2 sharpshooters, and you have the dumb, tough guy who isn't actually that tough, type of thing. So we get introduced to our first villains of the piece, which are the president of the school and his son, and they have a very much the strongest must succeed mentality. And he explains that at a certain point, like, you should be able to do this, and that, and master them perfectly. And I'm like, yeah, only you are able to do that because you're some sort of super genius. Everyone else is not going to be able to do that. Most people aren't going to be able to do that. That's why, like, the main house building is super intense. It's the hardcore training, because he only believes that the strong deserve to survive. And Class E is to be an example of where you can end up. So his entire goal is to keep Class E exactly where they are. And will do anything to keep them below everyone else. Even though Koro Sensei ends up teaching all these kids to be very good and teaches them how to study better and what works well for them. And he is really super affectionate with them and cares about them and does everything to help them succeed. Yeah, and you get introduced to the principal's son, who is the leader of Class A. He is just as bad as his dad, but he at least acknowledges that there's something wrong with the system. But it's a lot of, like, just, this guy's going through a lot of dark things, doing a lot of horrible things to this class because of a mentality that clearly doesn't work. Right? They try to add in some explanation and try to make him, it's like, oh no, he's not the villain. He's just had blank happen to him, and this is the mentality that's resulted from that. But yeah, I don't think that worked as well. It didn't. It was okay, and it helped by the end because like you broke him and he reformed as a better person type of thing. But yeah, and we get introduced to a bunch of assassins who keep trying different techniques. You get other people with tentacles because the scientist who invented Koro Sensei is using other people to try to take Koro Sensei down. And yeah, and there's a bunch of different ones. I personally like. I think one of the best ones though was they introduced this concept fairly early on of the Grim Reaper assassin, who's the #1 assassin in the world, and no one had ever lived to see his face, type of thing. Everyone he kills everybody, and you get introduced to him, and he has all of these different skills and things, and is able to manipulate and coerce people into doing things. But yeah, he's a bizarre, interesting kind of character, and the fact that he kind of persists and he becomes less important and also more important at the same time as this thing goes on is really interesting. I think, like, if I had any negative with this series, is that this Core Sensei is very, very powerful. He's too powerful for the most part, and it's like there doesn't seem to be any possible way to kill him. It's like we know these bullets can kill him, but he has to be still. You know, he has to not dodge it. And at Mark 20, you can dodge pretty much anything. And yeah, but and there is a point like right in the dead middle of the series where they get really, really close. Like they plan out and do this very complex, good strategy. And even Koro Sensei admits if one of you snipers had shot a second sooner, or if the other one had been an inch or two more accurate, I would be dead. But he manages to survive by turning himself into a little ball that's impenetrable. And that really kind of takes the wind out of the sails of the. It's just like, really? But it's bizarre. Yeah, and it picks up right away because Koro Sensei, like, kids get poisoned and they have to go rescue the kids, and we end up seeing, like, the main character, Nagisa, is actually super good at being an assassin. He has these really good natural abilities. One of his biggest strengths is that he is able to keep his bloodlust in check, because they talk about bloodlust like it's something that literally radiates off people, that you can sense it. And he can just walk up to someone and be smiling and happy, and you would not think them a remote threat, and then he flips the switch and you're dead. And he develops multiple skills throughout that make him really powerful and really interesting character to read. And it's like he has a natural ability for it, and it's like, will he become an assassin as a result, or will he choose a different path? He's an interesting main character that we get a little bit insight into him, but it's really more about Koro Sensei's antics than it is about any of the characters specifically. There's some villains that work out really well, and then there's some where you're just like, oh, okay, we're going with this. That's interesting. Like, because one of the villains that ends up popping up is Nagisa's mom, weirdly enough, because we know Nagisa has this very long hair, and he wears it up in a style, and it's like, someone's like, well, why don't you cut it? And he's like, I wish I could, but he can't. And it turns out it's because of his mom, who we don't meet until very far in the series, and it's like, oh, hi, you're a new character, and then she's instantly, like, normal, and then crazy. Just full on, like, oh yeah, I wish you'd been a girl, and it's like, you're gonna do everything that I've ever wished I could have done, type of thing. And the second that he even tries to stand up for himself, she's like, oh, okay, and knocks him out. And then he wakes up in the woods outside the classroom, and she's like, this place has corrupted your mind. Burn it to the ground. It's like, that one is, like, I think the worst of the villains, just because it's such a extreme thing, but it does explain Nagisa personality a bit, and his little bit of quietness and his thing. Yeah, but it is interesting and bizarre. One of the things I did like is that they do, like, you don't know much about Koro Sensei for, like, the entirety of the series. Like, up until, like, the last 5 books, you know almost nothing about him. You know he was born on Earth and sees himself as a human, but you know nothing about him at all until the last chapters. And that's the point in the series where it goes from really goofy comedy for the most part into serious drama, mostly. And it actually is like a natural transition into it. It's really well crafted, well done. It doesn't feel forced at all. And it's because they've been steadily adding more and more stuff to this to make the drama work better. And you get to learn about him, and I'm not going to reveal anything about that because it's really well done and well interesting and worth the read just for that. But yeah, that's an interesting element of the series. It's like, oh wow, this explains so much, and it's like, oh, okay, I can completely. Koro Sensei makes perfect sense after that point. It's like, oh, but yeah, it's basically just a student teacher relationship with some action comedy goofiness throughout the entire thing, and it does get to a point where it's like this starts out really goofy and bizarre and gets very serious towards the end. Like I was legit crying when I got to the finale because it's so heartfelt and so it's racking. It is tough, but it is such a good finale, and it's sort of you get the clear indication that that's the only way this could have ended. Although, granted, there's one little thing in that ending where it's like there's a little bit of a Deus Ex Machina, but it's also done by Koro Sensei, who's already proven to be his own Deus Ex Machina, and they explain it away well enough that I can kind of forgive it. It's just you think blank is hurt, and then they're not. Granted, this is still better than Fairy Tail, which is another series that did a lot, loved to do these fake death things. They like that final arc of Fairy Tail does it like 15 times. It's really annoying. It's like by the end you're just like, I don't care. None of you are dead. Just let's go on. But this one, does a very good job of setting up all the characters and setting up the different skills and stuff. We have an interesting hero character, villain in Koro Sensei because he's goofy and fun and perverted and caring and mean and an egomaniac. And it's like the main character of this keeps making a list of his weaknesses throughout. And I think he ends up with like 56 different weaknesses, but they're all little things like is very perverted or can't stand up to people of authority or has a very big ego or things of that nature. So it's like, okay, yeah. And you see like the building up of some of this stuff where it's like, okay, this sort of worked against him, so the next person will use that in conjunction with some other stuff in it. And I don't know what I saw in this that my friends didn't, but I'm not surprised. Again, the part of the reason I read it is because they said they didn't like it, and at least one of them, like me and her always go like extreme opposites. Like both of them loved this series called Black Butler, and they told me to reread it and give it a shot. And I tried. I read the first 10 books of it, and I personally couldn't get into it. I can see sort of what they got into out of it and into it, but for me, it was like it took the wrong first step, and it never managed to save it to bring itself back. Like Black Butler starts out, I was expecting something like Hellsing, where it's dark and serious, and I got goofball comedy for the first two chapters, and it's like, and it wasn't even really good goofball comedy. It was just everyone else is an idiot, but this one guy is amazing. And it's like, yeah, no, I didn't get into that. This one, I was expecting goofball comedy, and I got insane goofball comedy. And yeah, granted, it's also the same thing of like the most of the joke is Koro Sensei is unbeatable and way better than everybody, and no one else, and no one else can even stand a chance. But for most part, that's not played like egotistically or it's a goal. It's something to try to overcome and to outsmart. I can't exactly explain why I didn't get into the other one. I can completely understand why they didn't get into this one, but I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a lot of fun and a lot of stuff. The concept of just trying to kill something that can move at Mach 20 and knowing you have to do that or the earth will explode. That's compelling, and I loved the way they wrote some of the story and the way they wrote some of the action scenes. It was just well told. For the most part, the series is pretty good. I give the entire series a 4 out of 5. Good characters, good storytelling, goofy fun. The only negatives really is that the little bit of that loss of energy that you get in that dead middle, and some of the little bits and pieces throughout that are just kind of like, but mostly I enjoyed it. I would definitely say it was well worth my read and my time. And this is a series, like, one of the nice things when you do manga is that there's usually an anime associated with it. Not always, but in this case there's an anime associated with it. And 2 live action movies with a CGI'd Koro Sensei. And I saw this picture and I'm like, I kinda wanna see that. Koro Sensei looks like really bad CGI, and he probably is, but that looks goofy and fun, and weirdly, like, they do actually good live action versions of anime. Only Japan and only Asia is able to do it. America, we try and we get crud, but eh, I definitely want to give it a look. See if I can try to get it. That's kind of interesting. So yeah, that's my review of Assassination Classroom. Let me all know what you think in the comments below. If there's any series that you would recommend for me to read, or that you would like me to review that I may have already read in the past, I would happily do some more manga reviews. Other than that, happy reading!